Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Today we're going to take a look at the Adjustar from Rob Coaman and see what features it has. For a traditional Stanley style bench plane, the Adjustar actually has a few issues with it. Number one, the old ones are very, very little. Stanley fixed that in some of the later models. They made it a little bit larger. Not to mention, as you become a little older, hands start to become a little less useful. Arthritis and other things cause problems, or maybe there's a little bit of unsteadiness. And actually using this knob, even though it's a little larger, because it's under pressure, you've got to put a good amount of pressure on it to crank this around and adjust the iron around. So because of that, Rob Coaman came up with the Adjustar. It is considerably larger in diameter than the old Stanley knobs, and even the larger Stanley knobs, it's still much, much larger than that. This gives you an exceptional amount of leverage, as well as you have a solid pushing force rather than just relying on the knurling on the outside. The installation is really easy. Just take the iron and lever cap out, and then we want to rotate the knob. Remember, it's rotating the other direction. And with this one, I actually have enough space that I can lift the yoke up, put this in, and then rotate it right in place, and I can tighten it down on without removing the handle. However, on my 5.5, I have to take the handle out, so I'm going to remove this screw here and the screw on top. I can pull out the handle, and then I can get the Adjustar in there. You also may want to take this opportunity to add just a little bit of oil, making things go together easier and run smoother in the process. We can then make sure the yoke falls into the slot and then tighten it down on. I have found the threads on the Adjustar to be ever so slightly tighter, so I can't quite spin it like I would with the Stanley, but still very functional. Then with it in place and moving freely, we can put the tote back in. Don't tighten the through bolt until you get this front screw in place. Then with the front screw tightened, lock this down and we can put the iron back in. And now we can take a really nice light fluffy shaving. I just love those things that just peel out. You could read through that. Or with a very slight movement, just turning it a little bit. Now we can take a really nice beefy shaving, or another slight movement, just a little bit more. We can take a really heavy shaving, and we can take off some material pretty quickly. And so with just a slight movement of 1/8 of a turn or less, we can get exactly what we want with just the finger right there. Now don't get me wrong, you can get that same fine micro adjustment with a normal iron, just a small turn of it, and now get something heavier and a little more, and we can get something really good and heavy. But it's going to take a little more control, and usually I find that it's just a bit too much tension to use with my index finger. So sometimes I'll bring my thumb in and roll it. Whereas with the Adjustar, it's really easy. You've got a big leverage on here. You can put your finger on there and put a lot of pressure down on it very, very easily. This makes it very, very easy to flip the setting in between each pass. Roll it in, make it a little bit heavier, and just like that, you can go at it without having to move your hand. Now, I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't at this point talk about the Reed Fine Adjustar. And oddly enough, these two came out right about the same time. Jeff was making this and Rob was making that concurrently and separately. And I really couldn't say one is better than the other. They are both fantastic and really have great applications. I have several videos on the Reed if you want to see that. But honestly, they're made for two different ideas. This makes it very easy to control. You can move it with a finger, you can do it fast and efficiently if you have hand problems. This allows you to use a plane when you wouldn't be able to naturally adjust it. I know a lot of people out there who have to actually take the whole assembly apart in order to adjust it because they don't have the hand strength required to do that. But with this, you can very easily push it and have the leverage to do the work so you can keep using this plane even as you start to age. The Reed Adjustar doesn't have that. Yes, it's a little bit larger in diameter. However, it is set up for fine adjustment. One of the problems with the Stanley adjustment is the thread size. The tiniest amount can be a huge difference in shavings. Sometimes you're only moving at a 1/16 of a turn or less. Whereas with the Reed Adjustar, the thread sizing is half the size, so you have twice the movement of the screw to do the same movement as you get with this. So it allows you to have more fine adjustment. That means that it's a little bit easier to push it. There's a little less pressure on there. But it also means that you're going to have to take out the thread nut on there, and there's a lot more that goes into replacing this one. Whereas this is just simply taking out the nut and replacing it. A very fast and efficient way to do it. And unfortunately, because two different Adjustars came out at the same time, there were quite a few people who turned it into Rob versus James. And it's really not that. They're for two very different people. And I love both of them. They both have great applications. And honestly, They kind of come down to the different demographics of the two channels. Rob focuses on a lot of legacy woodworking, people who are a little older in their age or retired veterans, whereas my channel is a lot about the 20s and 30s who are still in the trades and wanting to do it as a rough and ready hobby. The fine adjustment makes it so there's a little less skill involved. You can move the knob a little farther without adjusting too much. Whereas the Adjustar is fantastic for someone who has a little less grip strength in their hand. Two different people, two different reasons, and two great products that really work well together. Now, yes, you can't put both of them on the same plane, so you would have to choose one or the other if you want to upgrade, but honestly, there's nothing wrong with the old Stanleys. They work perfectly fine. You can still do all of the adjustment you do with these, they just have a different way of doing it. And that is one of the wonderful things, and that is one of the things that I love the most about woodworking. There is no right way. There is no best way to do anything in the shop. There's the way that works well for you, and the way that works for me may not work for you. The way that works for someone else may be the way to go. So if someone ever says, this is the best tool, understand that they're saying, this is the best tool for me in my particular application. It doesn't mean it's the best tool for everyone. It means that everyone's a little bit different. So you gotta try something that works for you. And that's one of the things that I love about this. This Adjustar is phenomenal. It works amazingly well, and there's a lot of people out there, this will be a huge benefit. There are a lot of people who can't use their hand planes because they can't run the adjuster. But with this Adjustar, they can, and that brings woodworking to more people, and I absolutely love that. Rob, you have done an amazing job with this, and really making woodworking accessible for some people who can't do it. That's awesome. I will leave a link to the Adjustar in the description as well as pinned in the comments. So if you want to take a look at that, hop on over to Rob's shop and take a look. If you have used one, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. What works for you, what doesn't work for you. I learn a lot from the comments, and thank you for that. Anytime you comment, you are actually helping out the channel. Even if it's just putting comment down below, that actually helps out. There are a lot of people who actually just put comment down below. Thank you, that means a lot. As well as hitting the like, comment, share, subscribe, thank you. Thank you. That means more than I can say. We are completely sponsored by you. We are not sponsored by anyone else. I get to say what I want to say about a tool rather than what the manufacturer wants me to say about that. So if you like that, then think about becoming a patron, because all these names over here, those are patrons on Patreon. And without them, we wouldn't exist. We are completely sponsored by you. I love being able to take a tool and do an honest review on it rather than having a tool that I'm paid to do something with. So if you like that, think about helping out the channel. It does help us, and without that, we wouldn't be here. So thank you. I think that'll do it for now. Until next time, have a wonderful day. If you're lost in the woods, this can actually be a really cool thing to help you out, because Rob is from Canada, and that makes this the North Star.